Um, First, I just want to thank everybody sitting here listening to Dina's reflections and Kasha talking about her project. It's really nice, and I'm really thankful for being with you these months in this residency. So thank you for all the inspiration. So I'm Brynhild. I'm based in Trondheim, Norway, and I also appreciated our common experimentation in Zoom, as Dina talked about. But I have sort of prepared a presentation about my individual work. So I'll talk about the Kintsugi Project and also the new work I'm presenting in this exhibition. So I'll start with the latest photographic work I did in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, just to tell you a little bit about my intention, about my struggles working with photography as art. I'll share my screen and I'll show you an actual physical book in the end, a real object, if the webcam will function. So I'll show you this one. Sorry, just one moment. So during the COVID-19 pandemic in May 2020, I did the photographic series Frontline Cleaning Workers. I met female employees at different workplaces in Trondheim who cleaned the common areas, including women's and men's toilets, disinfecting gripping points, door handles, and surfaces. Not once a week as they did before the pandemic, but several times a day. So if you remember, the coronavirus showed us which profession performs a socially critical task, and cleaning became one of them. Suddenly, cleaning workers could raise their head and they became everyday heroes and got some well-deserved attention. But now we have forgotten them again. Now it's the doctors and the nurses who gets the most attention, something they deserve, of course. But for a while, a typical woman, low status profession was appreciated by the society. A profession with large physical burdens, requirements for accuracy and knowledge, and with a high percentage of immigrants. So I've tried through the years to see the ones who deserves attention, women and migrant women in particular, to give them a voice and to tell stories about a social issue that needs attention. I've struggled with how to photograph people, how to approach unknown people, how to make a connection. I was shy. It was hard in the beginning, but in time my development grew. I developed a sensibility and techniques to create instant intimacy. In this work, I find myself attracted to certain types of pictures. The ones with a credible energy, with no posing, no staging, no manipulation, with layers of stories in one single picture as a truth witness, pictures that tells a story according to journalistic principles. It's a bit old-fashioned, but it has some values for me. This picture has a kind of clarity. It's descriptive. I like her pose. She's like a dancer about to say something. But the picture a bit simple, maybe not expensive enough. I also like to present art in alternative public spaces, to meet people outside the white gallery cube. That is appealing to me, like in this slide, the series Frontline Cleaning Workers is presented in the windows of my home. There is also a political activist element in that by challenging the concept of who is allowed to tell stories in a public space. So there is always this photography thing. Sorry, this is so sorry. So there is always this photography thing going on. It never stops. Or did it? The pandemic has for sure affected my artistic practice in terms of taking other kinds of photographs. So I've been shooting a lot of my husband. I'm not sure if he's so happy about that, but not so much of unknown people of obvious reasons. To come close enough to my subjects, I started in 2006 to invite people to participate, to become participant in my project. I started working directly with members of the public. I did photo workshops. I've been teaching photography for a long time. I am a graduated as a teacher. Using this kind of participatory methodologies made my work easier in a way. Easier to build trust, easier to get access, and quite frankly, several stories are better than one story, my story. So this was my background before starting with the Kintsugi Project during the COVID-19 pandemic. A group of women came together to discuss, investigate, and share experiences of being next of kin. They approached me after a meeting where they discussed what to do when life crumbles. How can we start over? How can we cope in critical stages of our lives? I was curious and unsure about how to work with my core questions. I wondered how to engage with these participants in a useful way, in a user-friendly way. Do participants have a real influence, or is it a pseudo-influence? To what extent should I direct during the creative process, in all parts or a few parts? What kind of documentary methods, as in different ways of collecting materials, could I use? What elements exist and what form do they take? And the big question was, how can I work with social photography during a pandemic? So I had a lot of questions. And the answer to the last one was probably no, because of the pandemic. I did not take any photographs of the participants, which I normally do, with a few exceptions. Here we are, three of us planning the project. So we met outside several times. We began a mobile photography workshop. We actually met physically and had a hybrid workshop in the first gathering. So we were like 5 or 6, and the rest were participating on Zoom. The workshop became the basis for further research and exhibitions. The participant was asked to use their voice through photography, and the method is called photo voice. By telling stories from their lives through the camera lens. And that is not a new thing to use photography in social project. Wendy Evell did that in the 60s, but I think today there is perhaps more co-directing. It's quite fulfilling to be a teacher when you see the development amongst the participants, from learning basic skills to, in the end, visual communication. The participants made mind maps about being next of kin and chose 6 words from the mind map to use in a visual story from their lived reality. The first iteration of the Kintsugi project was exhibited in Trondheim in the summer of 2021, outdoor in a market square. And I think when artist works with other people outside or in the community, or with the public side of art, if you like, intangible elements becomes important, like how to be humble, how to explain, how to be clear, how to build relations, how to help each other, how to create energy, and how to encourage and guide each participants, many whom never exhibited before, to be a part of a very public exhibition. In the secondary exhibition at Studio 44 in Stockholm, I used this material in my artistic work. Kasha invited us to be a part of the Woven exhibition very generously. And the theme, as also Kasha mentioned, was split or divided or Kluven. And that was easy to transfer to my own practice. I thought of the tension between my photography work and the participation. Two parts divided but not separate. I found myself attracted to a way of editing photographs with written comments and arrows. I saw this on a Facebook page titled Reminders Photographer's Stronghold from Tokyo. So I printed the participants' photographs and wrote my comments directly on the prints. This was a way to show the different parts or the different elements of the Kintsugi project, if you like. I was testing an idea. So this is titled Pencil Scrolls in the Margin. It's 12 photos and 12 writings. The only photographs I did was some portraits of the participants. A photographic portrait is always a result of a conscious collaboration between two people on either side of the camera. What matters to me is showing what lies below the surface, capturing the essence of people. The work felt at the time, and still is, a little gimmicky, maybe the weakest part of the work I presented in Stockholm, but it's okay to try things, I think. The series became a metaphor of the connection between me and the participants, titled A Point of Exchange. And talking about authenticity, I really like a new video I made for the Woven exhibition. I interviewed one of the participants who talked about her anxiety of infecting someone else. She opened up. She was not afraid of showing parts of her reality in the pandemic. She also wrote a text from the reality of being a public worker within mental health. Participating demands courage, a great deal of courage, and this participants was not in shortage of that. The video was titled I'm Terrified of Infecting Someone Else. And now I will try to show you the last work from the Woven exhibition. Just one moment. Okay, can you see? So this is an artist book I made. It's called the Kintsugi Project. I've tangled with questions about how to make a book for some time. Books as an art object, not as information or non-fiction books, but as art. I'm trying to navigate and edit and find an order from the first page to the last page. In this book, I've tried to make the project available, but not in a non-fiction way, but as a kind of photo album. And the book contains contributions both from me and the participants. So I just go through it quite quickly. Okay, so I go a little bit faster. So like this. This is also a transcription of the video, both in Norwegian and English. And we also spoke with, people from the municipality who work with next of kin. And this is the exhibition and the photo workshop. And in back, there's this mind maps from the participants. They're quite nice. Okay, so that's the artist book. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so, sorry. So in the end, I'll show you the latest work, which is on the website. It's called the 3 Articles. And it's 3 single web pages linked together through related stories. And it's published today. And again, I'm trying to reinvent the material, making new connections to my narrative work and journalism, telling 3 different stories from the Kintsugi Project in another format this time. I've chosen to present art in an editorial article format, using reporting as a technique to address social issues. And this time the topic, next of kin during a pandemic. So I just show you the pages. This is based on the video I told you about. I'm terrified of infecting someone else. And you can read also a transcription of from this video. It's a strong story, if you could say that. So I recommend to read it. And on this page, you can also go to the second story, being next of kin, so much more than family. In the project, we have a broad definition of next of kin. You normally hear of next of kin if you're sick, or if it's inheritance, something. But we also thought of next of kin as our neighbor or children or anyone who are close to you. So these are my colleagues in Trondheim. We did a project in the beginning of the pandemic, and I looked upon them as my next of kin. And I've written about what can artists do in time of crisis, what values emerges. Are artists as much on the front lines of the pandemic as essential workers are? And the last story, powerful visual stories about being next of kin, is about the participants' photographies. So this is the outdoor exhibition which I showed you before, and you can browse through some images of the exhibition. And this is the participants during the opening. And I have one picture of each, and I have written a short text about their contribution. Like this one was one of the strongest pictures, I think, in the exhibition. Her husband got Lewy body dementia at 56 years old. So this is him celebrating his 60 years anniversary or birthday at an institution. So it was really strong stories, and you can go down and see several of them. Okay, so this is me, yeah.
Thank you so much, Brynhild. That was really well prepared. Really interesting to see the link also from one project to another as it's presented on the website. That works really well, I think.